Life can be full of things, big things, small things, things we can't quite put our finger on. Some things we rejoice, some things we will not miss at all. We make more and more things by the millisecond. To stay on the boil, we pull things out of the ground, heat them, shape them, join them and grind them away until they serve their ultimate purpose. We're often told we have too many things and that we should throw them away. Some yearn for more things, to fill a void, or even just to show success in some material way. Some of those things are destined to be scrapped because no one cares about them anymore. When it's served its purpose, done its job, what do we do with it? Do we savour it, remember it, restore it, forget it? It was my first trip to this far-off land that opened my eyes. As travel often does, we're forced to see things as outsiders, as witnesses or as an audience. I saw a place with more things than I'd ever imagined. If there was a need, someone had worked out a way to meet it. If there was a fashion, there were followers, and if there was a method of travel, a small space to do it in and a more efficient way to do it, it had been well and truly figured out. The small streets of Japan, the bustling hearts of the cities, and the tiny country backroads were filled with these things. Families, business people, farmers, office workers, tradespeople, they were all in on it. Everyone understood it was possible to have something both practical and fashionable, sometimes even fast, yet it could be a small thing. I was drawn back again and again as I could not shake the feeling that I'd found the thing I was looking for, but never really knew what it was. I knew I'd soon understand, and I'd soon see the truth. When we met the Honourable Mr. Sato in the remote island of Hokkaido, I knew he would be the one who would really open my eyes. From his scrapyard, he'd allow me to experience and embody the philosophy of the Keiji dosha. The smallest highway legal road cars in the world awaited me. The story has been well told. My friend and I bought this car for a few $100s, road tripped it and attempted to drift it under heavy Japanese skies and rainbows. But soon our time was over and we had to let it go. Only I never could. I dreamed of owning a turbocharged, four-wheel drive Keiji dosha, one I could learn about and modify in my own way. The government, however, wouldn't allow it. They had rules for things such as these. Even though we got a version of this car, it was not the same. It was Spartan, basic, pedestrian, stripped back, sold for profit alone and not for joy. Utilitarian and flawed by its lack of traction and not honouring the spirit of the Keiji dosha. I gave up on my dream. Until a friend like no other worked out a way to bring this beloved thing back to home soil. He got it transported out of the snow, and then the car made the ultimate sacrifice of being cut in two so it could make the perilous journey halfway across the world to an unknown place, the promised land, the lucky country. Then the search was on. I needed to find one of these soulless shells of disappointment imported by some money-hungry suit to which I could insert the spirit of the Keiji dosha once again. When this car was found, work began. Hundreds of hours passed through an arduous struggle. The winter would be long and cold, but friends would lend their warmth, their talents, their sweat, time, and even blood to help rekindle the fire of this nuggety beast. We would forge its body through fire, water, earth and wind. Through heat, cold, drownings, chemicals, welding and sealing, the car slowly transformed, like a moth emerging from a chrysalis into a brand new version, a multicoloured version of the thing it once was. Then, once the inside of the little K had been reborn, the outside needed to be honoured also. Weeks passed where it seemed like the car may never drive again with the pride and glory of its first days in the world all those years ago. Hundreds of hours of work later, this nugget is fully formed, prepared, and ready to take on the world. This is Mira.
Take a breath, we're going under. Try to make it back again. Waves are crashing in like thunder. Lose the war but win the game. Every shot that you do felt the pain, but we got through. When I don't know where to go, the circle leads to you. And every mile we've ever run, don't look back how far we've come. Close your eyes.
here it is, Martin. All the way from Japan, all these years later. Congratulations.
The same, but oh so different. And just looking really good.
It looks amazing.
And it drives good. And all the work with the flares and the wheels and the guards and all that stuff that we did means that you can have those kind of wheels on, which are a bit silly, and still be able to drive it around a track.
They're perfect.
It's
the
not a race
coilovers
car.
feel amazing.
They do, don't they?
They feel really good.
Yeah, they feel good. They feel stiff, but not like terribly bouncing around stiff. And the car just works, man. And it's fast enough.
It sounds really good.
Yeah.
Really good volume.
Yep.
Really good feel. Good grip.
The exhaust is a bit noisy because it's big, but you've got to have a big exhaust, don't you?
Martin, what do you reckon was the hardest part of this whole build? And it may be something that was mechanical, or it may be something that was emotional.
Looking at it for 6 years.
Yeah, okay.
Just the amount of time it takes, like little things that can take a lot of time. Like, you know, this car, well, half this car sat on a pallet rack for, you know, well over a year before we were able to piece it together.
Yeah.
And then looking at the floor and probably discovering all that rust.
Yes.
I think that was probably the most heartbreaking part, because from that point, it was never going to be easy.
Yeah, yeah.
It was always going to be a lot of work. And it has been. And then it was two-tone for so long. And finding a way to paint it, because it's not something that we could have done in our own shed.
Yeah.
Without also having it sit in a paint shop for a year and waiting for that. So, you know, we really had a lot of pressure on those guys at Elite Collision Centre to get it done, and they did, which is awesome. So, and then, you know, about a week later, here we are.
Yeah. And having to do all the floor, getting it dipped to actually stop the rust in its tracks.
Yep.
It's amazing to think that this is the same little car that we were drifting in. Like,
Well,
its soul is still there, even though some parts of it are different and some are the same.
Well, it really is now. I mean, like, that was $300.
Yes.
And it was a nugget. It was rusted. It was actually scrapoo.
Yes.
And now it's about as far from scrapoo as I think you can get.
Can you give it a punch up the straight, Martin?
Absolutely.
Oh, it's fast!
5,000, 6,000,
It's fast!
7, 100 k's an hour, 7.5 grand. That's fourth gear.
That's 110. It's fast!
Yeah, it's not bad, huh?
That is amazing.
Yeah. It gets up and goes when it wants to. I mean,
It's 660cc.
3-cylinder.
That is insane.
700 kilos. And it sticks. Like, you know, it's no race car. And that you can see I'm not like trying to smash it through the corner because I don't want to roll it and I don't want to ruin my freshly finished car. But it just cruises so nicely. It's effortless.
That is so good.
Yeah.
It sounds amazing as well. What's going on in the front end? Is that some kind of pod filter or something? It sounds very sizzly.
It's the one that was on the one when we drifted it.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It's still the same.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
And there it is, man. That's like, you know, fourth gear. I mean, it's a K car, so it's geared like this. Fourth gear, 4,000 RPM. I'm doing about
80 k's an hour.
80 k's an hour. And it's effortless. Power steering works nice. I've got four-wheel drive grip. Not that I really need it on a dry track like this, but if it was wet and we wanted to go, it would just go.
Yeah, and probably due to the small capacity of the engine, there's no lag. You know, small turbo, small engine.
Yep.
Like, you'll know as soon as you put your foot down, right? Put your foot down,
There it goes.
there's sizzle right there, you know?
And that was at 3 grand and it revs to 8.
That is
The
amazing.
red line starts at 8 and still doesn't hard red line till 9.
Far out, man.
So that's, just loves it, man. Feels good, huh? And it just drives straight and grips and stops and goes. I mean, it could use better brakes, but it's now at the point where if you want to go crazy and modify it more, like this is now sort of the base, you know?
Yes.
Put some better brakes on from a newer car.
But it's a car.
It's a working...
And there are no other cars like this in this formation, and certainly with this story, in the country.
I don't think so. And there's a handful of them left in Japan, and a handful of them in maybe Malaysia. But even then, these were quite rare.
Yeah.
This was an option, like to get not only to get a four-wheel drive one, but to get a turbo four-wheel drive one. Like, and then what kind of buyer really wants to go and spend that money when it might be approaching the kind of money you'd spend on a base model WRX?
Yes.
But no, I want this.
Yeah, exactly.
You can understand why it is rare.
And what are you going to do? Is this like your Mini? Like, just keep it forever?
Yeah, I mean, after all this work, I mean, also it's one of those things, like it's worth a lot, but it's also kind of worthless, isn't it? Is it?
I don't know.
I don't know.
It depends how you value your worth and your meaning. I think it's one of the most valuable cars we have because it's one of the cars that we feel the best about. Gives you a smile, you know?
What I've definitely realised is that, like,
the amount of, people often talk about the amount of hours that goes into something, and with this car it's definitely the case. Like the amount of hours of my life, your life, Benny's life, helping me do the floor,
Mr. Sato,
even organising it in the first place. Like all these people have put in
even
a lot
Steve
of,
King originally, you know,
have put in, and Rob sending it to us, and all the guys who had to unload it out of containers, storing it for us, all this stuff. Like everyone's put in a lot of time and effort into it, and it's added up to thousands of hours. Thousands and thousands of hours. And what you end up with is something that's fairly unique. And it's a cheap budget car that someone in Japan probably drove to the shops in the snow.
Yes.
But it sort of lives on into this little, you know, nugget that's been polished about as much as one could polish.
Well done. Well, Martin, that was excellent. Thank you very much.
It's awesome, man.
Of course, we are at a racetrack, so it's probably time to have a race, isn't it?
With what though?